When you are watching Lord of the Rings, you might get a faint understanding that there are different cultures and kinds of orcs. Maybe. Like in the first movie, Saruman seems to be breeding a different kind. Lurtz seems to be a stronger version of any orc that is in Middle-earth. But then you get to the Two Towers, and if you've seen the extended edition, you know the scene where there seems to be a bit of back and forth between two groups of orcs. The Urks from Saruman and the Orcs from Mordor. Now, unfortunately in the movies, there's nothing you really learn about these two groups, other than the fact that they just don't like each other. But you don't really know where this other group comes from either. One says, "Our master grows impatient." And when I grew up, I always thought he was talking about his master Saruman, but the more I watched, the more I think he was talking about Sauron. And in the books, there is a chapter called The Uruk-hai that gives one of the most interesting takes on the cultures and different kinds of orcs, and it's one of the most fascinating chapters in the entire book so far. But before I keep going, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm reading through Lord of the Rings for the first time and publishing video essays on my thoughts. So if you're into that, subscribe. And if you feel like living through people who are reading things for the first time to relive that experience, then this channel is for you. I'm going to read some Brandon Sanderson, Game of Thrones, and the rest of Tolkien's work, and just a lot of other good stuff that I've never read before. Really excited to keep doing video essays on them. So subscribe if you haven't already. You can also become a member if you want to support the channel. And I just came out with a members only video, but YouTube went rogue on me and published it for everyone, but it's now a members only video. About 1 to 2 videos per week are for members only. And becoming a member gives you early access to the videos as well. You can donate to the video also if you like as well. The Orcs would be very proud if you did. But what orcs am I talking about? This chapter actually threw me into a lot of confusion when I was reading it because it was told from the perspective of Pippin, where he doesn't really know anything going on. So we too as readers don't really know anything that's going on. In the previous chapter, we learn a few things from Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Namely that there are some orc bodies and the orcs likely had a fight somewhere. Then we learn that Éomer and his company killed all the orcs and they left no survivors. And as we're kind of piecing things together from Aragorn's perspective, the whole time I am just hungering for Pippin or Merry's perspective because I want to know what is going on the whole time. And in the Uruk-hai chapter, Pippin wakes up from a stupor and tries to piece together what is happening. He's given a liquid that I kind of made the members video about what this liquid really is. And then this is what the book says. He struggled a little, quite uselessly. One of the orcs sitting near laughed and said something to a companion in their abominable tongue. "Rest while you can, little fool," he said then to Pippin in the common speech, which he made almost as hideous as his own language. "Rest while you can. We'll find a use for your legs before long. You'll wish you had got none before we get home. If I had my way, you'd wish you were dead now," said the other. "I'd make you squeak, you miserable rat." He stooped over Pippin, bringing his yellow fangs close to his face. He had a black knife with a long, jagged blade in his hand. "Lie quiet or I'll tickle you with this," he hissed. "Don't draw attention to yourself, or I may forget my orders. Curse the Isengarders. Ugluk u bakrong, sha pushtug, Saruman glob, bu bosh sky." He passed into a long, angry speech in his own tongue that slowly died away into muttering and snarling. Terrified, Pippin lay still, though the pain at his wrists and ankles was growing, and the stones beneath him were boring into his back. To take his mind off himself, he listened intently to all that he could hear. There were many voices round about, and though orc speech sounded at all times full of hate and anger, it seemed plain that something like a quarrel had begun, and was getting hotter. To Pippin's surprise, he found that much of the talk was intelligible. Many of the orcs were using ordinary language. Apparently, the members of 2 or 3 quite different tribes were present, and they could not understand one another's orc speech. There was an angry debate concerning what they were to do now, which way they were to take, and what should be done with the prisoners. It's one of the most interesting lines in this chapter because coming at it from a first-time perspective, knowing the movies, I kind of just lumped all orcs into one category. They're all just evil. And while I kind of do think they're all just still evil, now I know that they come in different factions of evil, which to be honest is kind of cool and something I never really thought that much about, but something that also makes total sense. Previously, in these books, you learn about the different cultures of hobbits to start, how there are many different factions, but that we learn kind of mainly about the Bucklanders and the hobbits and folk, who think each other are very strange. Then we learn about the elves, and how there are elves from Rivendell, Mirkwood, and Lothlorien. I'm sure there are more all over Middle-earth, but these are kind of the main ones that I think we learn about. Then we get into the culture of the dwarves when we learn about Moria in those chapters. This is probably my favorite of the cultures at the moment. I think the things that the dwarves believe and the honor that is found in its people like Gimli is pretty astonishing. But we're kind of still in the dark about two people, the men and the orcs. And we know Aragorn and Boromir are different, so we kind of know some of the differences between men. And Rohan is mentioned once or twice in the books, but we don't know much about the cultures of men. In previous chapters, you start to see the cultures of Rohan much more, or in the chapter right before the Uruk-hai chapter. It's called The Riders of Rohan, and it's an incredible chapter. I love it. But it's also an incredibly written device, not just to give complexity and culture to the good side, but also the bad side. Because both of these chapters are kind of like, not in opposition to one another, but they kind of complement one another. In one, you learn about the cultures of men, and in this one, you're learning about the cultures of orcs. It's obviously much more believable to craft a story where orcs have a distinct and different culture that inform everything they do. And this three-cultured orc hustle that's happening in this chapter is so fascinating to look deeper into. Another conversation kind of cements this idea of who is here. This is what the book says. Is that all you know? Why don't we search them out and find out? We might find something that we could use ourselves. That is a very interesting remark, sneered a voice, softer than the others, but more evil. I may have to report that. The prisoners are not to be searched or plundered. Those are my orders. And mine too, said a deep voice. Alive and as captured. No spoiling. That's my orders. Not our orders, said one of the earlier voices. We have come all the way from the mines to kill and avenge our folk. I wish to kill, and then to go back north. Then you can wish again, said the growling voice. I am Ugluk, I command. I return to Isengard by the shortest road. Is Saruman the master or the great eye? Said the evil voice. We should go back at once to Lugburs. If we could cross the great river, we might, said another voice, but there are not enough of us to venture down to the bridges. I came across, said the evil voice. A winged Nazgul awaits us northward on the east bank. Maybe. Then you'll fly off with our prisoners and get all the pay and praise in Lugburs, and leave us to foot it as best we can through the horse country. No, we must stick together. These lands are dangerous, full of foul rebels and brigands. Aye, we must stick together, growled Ugluk. I don't trust you little swine. You've no guts outside your own sties. But for us, you'd all have run away. We are the fighting Uruk-hai. We slew the great warrior. We took the prisoners. We are the servants of Saruman the Wise. The White Hand. The hand that gives us man flesh to eat. We came out of Isengard and led you here. And we shall lead you back by the way we choose. I am Ugluk. I have spoken. You have spoken more than enough, Ugluk, sneered the evil voice. I wonder how they would like it in Lugburs. They might think that Ugluk's shoulders need relieving of his swollen head. They might ask where his strange ideas came from. Did they come from Saruman, perhaps? Who does he think he is? Setting up on his own with his filthy white badges. They might agree with me, with Grishnuk, their trusted messenger. And I, Grishnuk, say this. Saruman is a fool, and a dirty, treacherous fool, but the great eye is on him. Swine, is it? How do you folk like being called swine by the muckrackers of a dirty little wizard? It's orc flesh they eat, I'll warrant. Then, naturally, a fight ensues. But I think this is such an interesting study on the different cultures. The Mordor orcs hate the Isengarders, because the Isengard orcs, number one, think they're better and stronger than the Mordor orcs, which might not be true in the books, but kind of feels like that's true in the films. And number two, because they're following this weird tyrant king of Saruman. The line where they talk about his filthy white badge that Saruman has set up, I think it's so fascinating. And then the Isengarders dislike the Mordor orcs for no other reason than they think they're better and that their orders are foolish. I'm even curious how the Mordor orcs got there and met up with these ones. There's even then a massive difference in how you see each faction respond to the idea of the Nazgul. The Isengarders talk about the Nazgul like this. What's happened to your precious Nazgul? Has he had another mount shot under him? Now, if you'd brought him along, that might have been useful, if these Nazgul are all they make out. Nazgul, Nazgul, said Grishnook, shivering and licking his lips, as if the word had a foul taste that he savored painfully. You speak of what is deep beyond the reach of your muddy dreams, Ugluk, he said. Nazgul, all that they make out. One day you'll wish you had not said that, ape, he snarled fiercely. You ought to know that they're the apple of the great eye. But the winged Nazgul, not yet, not yet. He won't let them show themselves across the great river yet, not too soon. They're for the war, and other purposes. You seem to know a lot, said Ugluk. More than is good for you, I guess. Perhaps those in Lugburz might wonder how, and why. But in the meantime, the Uruk-hai of Isengard can do the dirty work, as usual. Don't stand slaving there. Get your rabble together. The other swine are legging it into the forest. You'd better follow. You wouldn't get back to the great river alive. Right off the mark now. I'll be on your heels. And all the while these two are having a fight, I just imagine the orcs from Moria are just kind of getting more and more nervous. Like they just want to kill Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli and go back home. And we don't get much about them in this chapter. But they perhaps are the most interesting case study for me. I wonder where they really came from. Are they from Mordor? I think they most likely would be from Dol Guldur, but maybe Sauron sends over certain orcs from Mordor over to Moria to keep it occupied and to keep it black. What do these orcs believe that is different from the other two factions? And then it makes me think of the other groups of orcs all around Middle-earth and how they got there. I still don't know if orcs are made up or if they're created or if they're just like a normal race. Do orcs have children? Are there orcs that are female? All questions I'm interested in, but I just don't have the answers to at this point. But I think this chapter was the most interesting for a case study on the cultures of orcs. And honestly, it's a brilliant bit of writing here too that Tolkien does, because he just sets this up. At the very least, he sets up a complexity within the villains. They are not just some rabble of mindless orc. Sorry, Gimli. They have culture and languages and beliefs that inform the actions that they do. I love it. I think it's brilliant writing to give your villains this level of complexity. And while it doesn't make me sympathetic to them, it maybe tugged at my compassion a little bit of thinking that they are all just kind of misunderstood orcs. And that they kind of misunderstand each other, and they themselves are misunderstood by the rest of Middle-earth. Nah, who am I kidding? I think they're just still evil. But make sure you like and subscribe. Donate if you like or become a member, and I'll see you in the next one.